Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Kenshin Machine collab that is occurring in North America for Puzzle and Dragons. So, the Kenshin collab has made its wonderful return because it's been quite a long time since it actually came around, and we've actually skipped kind of one of the inceptions and actually just jumped all the way to the current buffs that Japan currently has. So, at this point in time, all of the 6-star cards have the ability to be limit broken as well as have super awakenings. Furthermore, there are 2 new 6-star cards and 1 new 5-star card, and this video will be summarizing my thoughts and opinions on all the cards currently available, where you can utilize them, and whether or not it's actually worth rolling in this event. At the same time, I will be utilizing Pancake to help me pronounce the names correctly, because I know I'll say it wrong, someone will get offended, and we're just going to go with that.
I'll say it wrong.
No, you'll say it perfectly right. Perfect. So, the Kenshin Collab has 5 6-stars, 4 5-stars, and 5 4-stars. So unfortunately, the 4-stars are incredibly easy to roll. You'll be very disappointed very often. And the thing is, this collab actually does have reasonable value throughout the machine. Like, there are 4-stars that are useful. There's a 5-star that's useful and 2 6-stars that are very useful. And the thing is, with this event, like, they are powerful cards, they are unique, they are challenging to replicate in the rared machine. But the major downside is that they are niche. Like, not many players are going to be able to utilize the top prize cards that well. Like, yes, they are cool and they are powerful, but there are better options out there at this point in time. So it might help certain players, but for the most part, it's kind of geared to fast and efficient farming. And that may or may not necessarily be everyone's goal. People's goals may be just clearing hard content, not just clearing a specific dungeon in as fast of a time frame as possible. That usually is for more of those end game players who've kind of cleared everything already. But regardless, I'll still review each and every card. Now, just bear in mind that all of the 6-star cards can be traded for via the monster exchange system. Whether or not that's valuable to yourself, you have to determine. Basically, you just need to look at and see if the cards themselves are actually worthwhile. And just to reiterate, in order to receive Super Awakenings, the card has to be limit broken. They will have blue text for their level number. Basically, all the 6-stars can be limit broken and given Super Awakenings. So, the first 6-star card is...
You can say it.
Nope, is...
Saito.
That is the card. So, that card that Pancake has happily said for us is able to either be a row style team or just an orb enhanced style team. And unfortunately, he's not so great. If you are truly desperate for a void damage penetration card, his other form with the row awakenings can be somewhat useful in a way, because like at least if you're using him as a leader, you can have 2 of them. You can get reasonable amounts of damage with like a row and the actual box, but again, it's a little awkward and cumbersome because he doesn't have like 7 combos or killers to actually propel his own damage to like higher enough values. So it's not the greatest void damage penetration card possible, but it's okay. Now, the leader skill does change between the 2 evolutions. So this one is basically blobs, and this is dark crosses. So color crossing is quite awkward in all honesty, but the main drawback is the recovery multiplier relies on using an active skill, and there is no actual 1-turn active skill card available for dark. And you could use Cerberus Rider, but it's not that great in all honesty, so you're just handicapping yourself if you're trying to activate a skill every turn. Color cross leaders, especially those that use only 1 color, really like 7x6, because at this point in time, you only can match 2 color crosses on a board, not 3. Like if you're playing like, say, something like Roshana, you can get 3 color crosses because she uses light and wood, but this card only uses 2. Now, the main issue is it's kind of a niche farming leader, but there are much cheaper and much better options available. Like you can just basically use Zeus Dioses with like even the green starter dragon, and you can actually clear lots of content. It's probably going to be a lot easier and a lot just less expensive, quote unquote, to do, because Dark generally wants, like, say, Satans for full board changers, and those require a lot more effort investment as well as skill ups, or bad Ps for that matter. So, not so great, unfortunately. Now we come to Kenshin. This is a name I could actually pronounce because, you know, that's kind of simple. And he's also kind of like the signature card from the event, like his name is in the title. So, they have 2 distinct evolutions, but for the most part, only this form here is actually truly worthwhile and powerful, because they are a color cross leader that uses 2 different colors, but they also have a nice defensive multiplier tied in with their leader skill. Basically, they want to match fire and light crosses, and if you match at least fire and light orbs. Doesn't have to be in a cross formation. You get a tiny bit of damage, but you also get a nice 25% damage reduction, which obviously can stack with 2 leaders. So you get actually a pretty hefty amount of damage reduction to basically survive. Their Super Awakenings give them full bind immunity, which is actually incredibly valuable. Now, the main thing, like I said before, is with color cross leaders, they really love 7x6 because you not only can you squeeze in more color crosses, but you're much more consistently activated because you have a bigger board. You have much more to play around with. So the key with that is you want to try and find an ideal pairing. And at this point in time, Ilmina is actually an amazing pairing for Kenshin. And that is because they have an ideally synergistic active skill. Their leader skill is wonderful because they need to match fire and light at the same time, which is what Kenshin wants, as well as they also have a 25% damage reduction shield. So you have a nice healthy damage reduction shield. You have a bigger board to actually combo, and you may or may not necessarily need to leader swap, because if you are able to make, say, 4 or 5 color crosses, you should be doing more than enough damage to blow up anything really in your path. So you could definitely use, obviously, Matcha or Lee to leader swap, but you may not necessarily need it. It depends on the dungeon at hand. If it's long enough, yes, you can swap, but if it's a short enough dungeon, you may not need to, depending on how many bi-elemental board changes you can make, or Saria style active skills, in order to basically just make many color crosses at the same time. So Kenshin is a powerful card, but he's nothing special, unfortunately. There are technically much stronger leaders available, so I feel he's not necessarily worth exchanging for. It is strong, but you may have stronger leaders possibly available. In all honesty, Anubis Diabolus, or basically just Diabolus paired with many combo leaders, tends to be a lot more safe and consistent overall for the most part. And now we come to...
Say it.
I can't.
You can say the first
Hiko.
one. That's good enough.
Okay.
Hiko Seijuro.
Fantastic. That is the card's name. So this card here is actually going to be a lot of players' big prize, because they offer a Fujin style active skill, which basically counteracts damage absorption spawns. So Sopdet, Parvati, Vishnu, Hera Dragon, Saladik, to name a few, are some of the more terrifying spawns to a certain extent. But if you have a Fujin style active skill, you can completely ignore that absorption and just blast your way through and not have to actually worry about puzzling skills or mapping out damage control. So because of that, it's obviously going to be a very desirable and tasty card. Furthermore, their secondary benefit is actually much stronger than Fujin. Fujin is a 19-turn cooldown. Hiko is a 20-turn cooldown, but instead of a single turn of haste, you get +2 combo count. So this is significantly more valuable overall because, well, you have a much easier time. Even if you cap out, you get +2 combo count. You're still going to be happy. And they actually still have valuable or beneficial awakenings. Their Super Awakenings can give a follow-up attack as a big noteworthy one, Cloud Resist maybe, or extra 7 combo or full bind immunity. But one thing to keep in mind is Hiko in this form is able to have 3 skill boosts. And 3 skill boosts is huge because you are able to actually possibly have him charge up in time in 3-player dungeons, because a big issue of 3-player dungeons is you don't necessarily have enough skill boosts. So he may not necessarily be contributing crazy amounts of damage, but he's already bind immune, 3 skill boosts, has a single finger. Not a bad card overall. If you go for the other option, he's more offensive. You can give 7 combos, you have more fingers, you could choose full bind immunity or extra 7 combos. He is still a very powerful fit on Yusuke teams. One nice aspect of him is that it's that +2 combo count, and when you're trying to match a 3x3 box for Yusuke in order to actually void damage penetrate various spawns, you can have that +2 combo count to ensure you hit those 7 or more combos. So it's not necessarily a bad card to run, and he's quite powerful. Now, whether or not he's worth monster exchanging for is kind of up to your own personal preference. He does require these Godfest exclusives or those collab cards. And remember, you need 4 for 1, the ratio. So it is quite costly for the most part, but if you lack a Fujin active whatsoever and you really struggle horribly against those absorption spawns, it may be worth considering for exchanging. But just remember, once you have one, if you roll a second one, you're going to be a little sad because, well, it has significant diminishing returns because it's rare you're going to need at least 2 in a dungeon, because when you think about it, you can actually pair yourself off with a friend who has a Fujin-style active skill, or just bring a team that has a form of damage control to not actually have to worry about those encounters. Next is
That's a long one.
I can't say it. You have to say it for me.
Yukishiro Anishi?
Fantastic. So we got a wonderful female voiceover for these names. So views and likes are just going to fly through the roof. But this card here, at first glance, looks underwhelming. He looks like kind of like a bad row farming leader because, well, he's bind immune. He scales off connecting 6+ wood orbs. And his multiplier is not that high. Like, it just doesn't seem that amazing. Like, you could use, say, Kaede and possibly even accomplish significantly more. But the thing is, this card is actually deceptively strong if you own many duplicates, because you can form a special kind of system that can kind of swipe through Arena 3. Swipe through Arena 3? Yes. If you have at least 3 of these cards plus a friend, or 4 in total, you are able to basically use his active skill every single turn because it's on only a 4-turn cooldown. You have a row of wood, make more combos as necessary. You actually can sweep the content very quick. You can have blisteringly fast Arena 3 runs, which is quite amazing for the most part. So it is something to keep in mind, but it's definitely not practical for the average player. The average player is not going to have 2, let alone 4 of these, or at least 3 in total. It's just not going to happen. So if you are a special marine animal and you tend to have lots of magic stones and can roll lots, maybe you can make these sweet kind of swipe farming teams, but in all honesty, it's not practical for the average player. So it is strong if you have many of them in duplicates to kind of complete this system, but otherwise it's not going to be that great for the average player because stronger options already exist. And in my website article, I do have a YouTube video. I'm not going to watch a video in a video. That's kind of weird. And next we come to...
Oh, Shishio Makoto.
Excellent. So this card here is actually incredibly powerful and is actually possibly worth monster exchange for if you love fast and efficient farming. So basically this card here is pretty much a direct upgrade to Yamamoto because you only need to have 5 connected fire or dark orbs to unleash explosive amounts of damage. And that's incredibly easy to do. So you can have flexibility. You could use red or you can use purple cards for basically farming your way through dungeons, but you only need 5 of them. So basically, form a row, you obviously kill things, or farm an L because they have the L unlock awakenings, you get massive amounts of damage. So this is actually amazing because Yamamoto is nice, of course, they're great at row farming, but the main issue is they have no utility awakenings, whereas this card here is fully bind immune, has 2 skill boosts, has skill bind resist, has some time extend, and should have more than enough damage anyways to sweep content, so you don't need, I think, 5 fire rows to compensate. So this is actually quite amazing overall, and it's for players who are truly gung-ho about farming certain content as fast and efficiently as possible, this may be the best way to go. Furthermore, because their leader skill is quite flexible, they actually have real awakenings, quote-unquote, they are able to actually tackle possibly much harder content because you can actually still combo around and you have more flexibility of the types of subs you can bring as well as the active skills you require. So again, if you are a player who loves fast and efficient farming and have a dedicated partner, this may be the best option you have for fulfilling that role. But again, for the average player, it's not necessarily going to be that beneficial because, well, your goal may not necessarily be to farm a certain dungeon 100 times in as short of a time frame as possible. And as a traditional leader, it's okay, but there are much better options available for the most part. And now we come to the 5-star cards. And this is another new card. It's called...
Tomoe.
Yes, that's what it's called. I totally was going to say something different in my head. So this card here is actually incredibly powerful, and they're primarily used as an inherit, but they still can be used as a niche sub. And this is because their active skill is amazing. They have 30% damage reduction for 8 turns. That's a massive amount of uptime, and it's only on a 13-turn cooldown. So basically, this card here can provide pretty much any team with significantly more bulk and survivability for a very prolonged time. You can tank many preemptives, you can stall on dangerous spawns, you can do so many different things with an 8-turn lasting shield. Yes, it's only 30%, but if you've mapped your team out correctly, it should be enough to survive whatever mechanic you're encountering. Furthermore, their awakenings can be situationally helpful. They have 60% jammer resist and 10% passive damage against dark and fire spawns, so it can be quite helpful in certain content, or if you need that shield on a much quicker charging basis and you can't afford to inherit it. So, in terms of long-lasting shields, base form Susanoo, not reincarnated, but base form Susanoo has 5 turns of shielding for 50% damage reduction on a 15-turn cooldown. So the two of them provide very long-lasting amounts of damage reduction, so it's a matter of just choosing which one you feel is more helpful to yourself just because of the way they actually work and function. But for the most part, this is an amazing inherit, and it's nice that Gung Ho actually gave a strong card at the gold level. But of that being said, things are going to go downhill very quickly. I'm really just kind of skip over all these next cards. Like this card here is quite terrible for the most part, like pretty much garbage, not even garbage can.
Sanosuke.
A little bit better, not as horrible. They have 100% defense break for one turn, as well as dealing 100,000 damage to one enemy in exchange for reducing your health to 50%. So it's only a 7-turn cooldown. So if you need to have a full defense break on a short charging cooldown, well, that is quite helpful. But for the most part, there are various workarounds. Like either you have leader skills that do so much damage you don't care about the actual defense values, or we can use cards with guard break. But at least it is an option, but it's not the greatest overall. It doesn't do too much. Like, yes, you may think, well, I could use it against machine and physical cards, but there's not many machine or physical spawns in the game, so hard to kind of use. Next is...
Seta Sorijo? Sorijo?
Yes, absolutely terrible. It does 99 damage to a single enemy, ignoring element. Basically, it's 99 true damage. But the problem is, it can only really button through Evolved Zeal, which is cool and all, but you could just void damage penetration it or just dance it out. It's 10 free turns of stalling. Most people like the stalling aspect, and you rarely need this active. It can't kill Dark Metatron Tamadra. If it could kill Dark Metatron Tamadra, maybe it'd be a little bit more valuable. And now we come to the 4-star cards, and this one is called
Kaoru.
And she is actually a very powerful 4-star card. She's kind of breaking the trend because most of the 4-stars are pretty terrible. But their active skill changed the top row into water and the bottom row into light, as well as recovering 50% of your maximum health. Now, this self-healing is actually incredibly valuable on health-sensitive teams, such as Zeus Verse and Yogg. They can benefit from the light orbs as well as the massive heal to keep themselves in their specific health threshold or zone. So this type of active skill is amazing because not only do you solve the healing aspect, but you also get orbs being made at the same time to basically actually kill things as well. But in addition to that, the 2 rows being formed can actually do wonderful and amazing things for certain row farming teams. For example, if you're using, like, say, Kaede or Reincarnate Lube or whatever you may be for wood row farming, you pop a Zeus Dios, you have a 1 combo board. Not so great. But if you pop
Kaoru?
active, you are able to actually easily make 7 combos with a row, or 9 combos if you kind of min-max, I believe, possibly. I could be wrong on the math, but the point is you can overcome combo shields now, and that is a big deal because a lot of times players may not necessarily have access to Avalon Drake, so this can be a nice alternative overall. Next is...
Makimachi Miso.
Absolutely terrible. I rolled them as my free roll, which is kind of sad, but you said they were pretty. But
yeah.
they changed Light and Jammer orbs to Fire orbs, recover 30% of health. 30% of health may not necessarily be enough, but the fact that they're taking away light orbs and the fact that Yogg and Zeus first tend to want light orbs is a little problematic overall. Next card is...
Takani Megumi.
They change Dark, Jammers, and Poisons into Hard Orbs and recover binds by 5 turns. Now, back when we didn't have many good bind clearing options, this was actually not bad. So at least they still remove hazards, but they don't actually clear Awoken binds. And in all honesty, much stronger options exist. Like, a lot of players now have Odin Dragon, and Odin Dragon is the king of bind clearing. So not many options can necessarily compete with...
Takani Megumi.
Exactly, so it's quite problematic overall. Next is...
Honjo Kamatari.
They deal 99 damage to all enemies, basically 99 true damage to all enemies, and Wood Skyfalls. Kind of the exact same idea. You can kill Zeal, but you can't really kill a Dark Metatron Tamadra. It's pretty lackluster overall. Like, the odds where you actually need to use this active are pretty slim to nil. My last name is Nil, by the way, so it's actually kind of funny. Pancake is laughing right now.
No, not.
Yes, there she is. There's the laugh. And last and certainly least is...
Myojin Yaiko.
They spawn a column of light orbs, and that's kind of it. So for the most part, pretty much any other orb changer is better value for the most part. Like, even like single orb changers have better. You're not necessarily wanting to inherit this, but they have no awakening, so you're not going to use them as a sub, so it's quite hard to actually justify using them. So, in conclusion, wow, thank you, Pinko Trio, for the 1,000 bits! I'm streaming while I record this video, but you can't see it pop up in the stream, or the actual thing itself. But, in conclusion, the Kenshin Collab has actually quite a bit of value throughout the machine, but the big problem is they are niche and more so geared to players who are very gung-ho about like farming specific content as fast and efficiently as possible. It's not that practical for the average player because none of these cards outside of Kenshin are at least strong traditional leaders. Like Hiko, who has the Fujin style active skill, may be a much more beneficial and universal card to actually utilize, but unfortunately, if you already have a Fujin style active skill, it may not necessarily be that helpful. The +2 combo count is definitely an amazing collateral benefit, but it all depends on what you actually need on your monster box. So yes, you can exchange for the 6-star cards, but the only two I would really ever consider is Hiko and...
Makoto.
Exactly. Other than that, I really necessarily wouldn't consider exchange for anything else. So let me know what you think about this Kenshin collab in the comments below. Do you plan on rolling heavily? And if so, what did you roll? As well as what did you actually roll from your free rank 50? Hopefully you'll have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best of luck in your own pet adventures. And happy puzzling.